able to see, but having a student group come once a month to kind of talk about what's going on. So,
May I make a request? On the administrator's report, if you will want initials, acronyms.
sure.
I had this snowball, because like there was one the other day, but PLC, well, my Lord, that's a lateral corner. I don't think that's what they mean. And an ACL repair, so I just don't know what that means. So if I could get like, that was just, it came off, you're not the only one. Everyone needs it. It's a government institution, I get it, so I understand that.
We'll try to do that. Professional learning community
Thank
is
you.
PLC for this, but
But
I'll
I'm
try
right on the
to.
corner. We're not here, don't worry about kids being injured, so.
Okay, good. Yeah, no knee injuries.
Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. Sometimes it's hard when you're in that. You say it every day, all day.
Yes, for sure. It's just like me, I don't want to go, can't see them. Well, okay, we can get that shot.
Right.
Well, and then my next, so you review those? Is there going to be a chance for us to ask questions?
Yeah, right. I think that could be a part of this, really.
So we're going to do it before or after student involvement?
Doesn't, we could actually, if the kids want to go, then they can go. And then yeah.
Perfect, thank you.
Yeah, sure. All right, Mr. Liger, who will introduce the students, they introduce themselves.
My name is Christian Brown.
My name is Kylie French.
I'm Ethan Bullitt. Mark Stucco. We have our board members. It's just a number. Our president couldn't make it, so I'm really guys.
She's on the board and stands, so she's in that.
You might have to.
We started yesterday with our homecoming week. Started off with power class, volleyball, and football. It's a good turnout, good fun. What's that line? We got beat, but that's okay.
We did not.
Our week is all planned out with a bunch of fun stuff we're doing. We've got individual days for the community, for community around school. Like today was senior, citizens for seniors and blah, blah, blah. But tomorrow is random school day. Next day is something else.
Wednesday is White Lies and Presidents. True. Thursday is pool party and Friday is crossover, so I'm crossovers.
Yeah, a little more information. And yeah, we've put a lot of effort into this, getting it all worked out. And Friday will be our grand finale. Everyone does a parade and whatnot. Just making everyone feel good about homecoming
We tried to make it bigger this year, so behind you, a poster on the wall. We made a point system for each class. There's points designated to each category. So you get points for winning powder puff. On Friday, we're having a class versus class kickball game. If you win, that will go towards your points. If you dress up, you get points towards your class. Whoever is dressed up the best gets points to your class. Whoever is involved more in the pep rally gets points, and whoever wins overall in homecoming gets good stuff at the end. So we're kind of trying to push people to be involved.
Just more of a group effort towards homecoming, since I feel like with recent years it has dwindled. But yeah, and then after Friday night's game, we are doing like a pizza party for our homecoming dance. It's not very formal because we're wanting to do a more formal dance later in the season towards like a snowball. I don't know what the name's going to be, but yeah. Friday's going to be a busy night. Anyways, with Brian Morgan and Dave.
150th anniversary of homecoming. Staff tables. And fall fest.
And Fall Fest, and yeah, a bunch of stuff. So
Do you guys have questions?
What time is the parade on Friday?
Smith, 2:30. I believe Smith.
I applaud you guys for trying to improve homecoming. It's always a good idea. And the best part of your whole presentation was trying to make it very inclusive. So well done.
We also pulled junior high for Spirit Week this year. And so freshmen through seniors are going against each other, and 7th and 8th grade are competing against each other too.
Awesome. Good job.
Yeah.
2:30 is when the parade, and 6 is coordination. 6:30 is when they're 6:30 is the coordination, so.
Do you feel like there's been more enthusiasm this year based on the? Good.
Power was more fun than it was last year. And the freshmen and sophomores kicked butt today and dressed me up, so.
Good. And who's judging? Who gets to award points?
I'm in charge of the point system, but there are a few teachers at lunch who pick who dressed the best, and then we have an attendance sheet for the English teachers who see everyone, and they highlight every stuff, and we put all this together as a thing.
That takes a lot of coordination, a lot of time. Sounds really organized. Well done.
Yeah, well done.
As long as like getting people involved, we also invited our elementary students for our Friday pep rally, which is after the dodgeball, I think. Kids, yeah.
Hey, don't we get dismissed at 1:45 for people?
12:45 homecoming activities.
Yeah, so we go 12:45 kickball, after that we go to pep rally, that's K through 12, and then we get dismissed and go to the parade and garnish us. That's it.
Nice. Good job, guys.
Good job.
Thank you guys for putting it into the.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, appreciate your time.
Yep, thank you.
Sweet, gentlemen.
Thanks, guys.
That's
Thank
great.
All right. Now, the questions about anything else on any of the reports?
I got it, so. Annie, the red line, has came up again for the middle line.
Yeah, it's gone.
Okay. I was wondering if that was gonna be dismissed or not. It has caused problems in games. I can think of one when we said was playing. Called the fumble. Yeah, the end zone line is red and you can't see it.
Oh,
So we had a great comment from the officiating crew, which was
I saw
outstanding.
that. Very
And then they
positive.
made a comment that it's really hard to see the goal line because of the lighting and it's red. So
There you go.
hopefully,
What color is it?
Now.
Uh-huh.
I think it's white.
what's gonna be light, it was red.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh.
White's red.
Yeah.
Jordan. So I was reading about the school's HOA conference and probably giving us some insight. What are the commissioners?
As a league, we're pretty happy with where we're at right now. And so, as a league, tomorrow, we'll kind of go and just say, we are happy where we're at, we don't really want to add schools this time. Plus the schools that are potentially coming in, we don't think that they're going to be at the level that the rest of the schools in our league are at. They also don't have sports, football, for example, that we have. So they don't break a lot in. I would be a little surprised if they end up placing with us. I think there's another league, one of the other ones that's a better fit for them. Not only competition size-wise, but travel-wise too. I mean, for the schools, for our northern, Saline, Bennington, it's quite a trip for those new schools. I mean, in a way, it'd be kind of nice for us to have a little closer trips, but competition-wise,
Less than Bennington and Nelson, they're out potholes when it comes to travel.
Yeah.
Both ends.
yeah. And so we'll know, I'm going to anticipate we're going to know tomorrow, like make an actual decision tomorrow. This has been in the works like for a while, before I was here, said, I mean, they were at kind of petition the league at times. So they're looking to get into a league, but we'll know more from the executive board tomorrow as that goes. And so those the leagues, those two schools, and then all the leagues are sending representatives to that league.
And I suspect, I assume that our coaches have had some interaction with you guys on what they feel or not feel, or not.
Not too much on this. This was this is happening.
Right.
It's cut, yeah, this is from the schools at the league meetings that kind of talked about this, and it was just, the schools kind of feel we have a good kind of measure between us right now, and that's what we like how it sits in our league. 10 schools in the league is kind of nice for term-wise, and that helps and things like that as well.
And I think like, glad y'all came, but this is the decision. I'm not sure that the schools are gonna be able to really argue one way or another.
Gotcha.
Against, I think it's gonna be at the state level, and we're gonna have to live with it if we have to. I don't think it's gonna argue.
Basically, what the commissioner gets to have a discussion. Maybe next time.
Right, yeah.
So, all right, thank you, that's all I have.
I do have a comment. The last home football game, our only home football game, just kudos to activities and Jordan and all the people that got involved to with the sound system over the years, and just the entertainment value was a great, the music and the tunnel that they have, and just the amount of community support that's really got in there, and creating an environment that is, with the white hat being able to tell you what the foul is and things like that. It's just great. It's such an improvement from 5 years ago. So just kudos to you guys for the hard work.
Well, we have some great community support. I know Cardinal Backers were the ones that got us that tunnel. They've been kind of wanting that for a while. And I know Zach Dehaven, he's really taken with the announcing, and so he's, I wish I could take credit for some of that, but really a lot of that, Zach is doing that. He's really taking off.
You hired well, you take credit for that.
He's really done a great job of it. He's really kind of getting comfortable with that. The second year doing that announcing, and so it was impressive. I was impressed myself, that's for sure.
It was great to see, you reminded me, community support. I mean, there were a lot of people who stands for the first game. The tunnel was the first time I've experienced that. That was really, really cool. A lot of talk about school pride.
Sickles can look like on that track.
I know.
That's not on the agenda.
I got one quick question. So the college visits that you mentioned in there, have we been doing that in the past, or the specific, like the trip to Hayes, those things, have we been doing those types of things, or is that, I assume that was new?
Yeah, we have college reps that come into schools.
Right.
So.
I think it's a great idea. I'm not
Getting kids out, we haven't done that.
Yeah.
That's the only thing. We just have some kids that it's hard for their family situation for them to go visit a college campus.
I think it's a great idea.
And so we try to get those kids those opportunities just so they can see something outside of the Wichita metro area, or inside the metro area too. We have some kids that are going to WSU Tech this year that really hadn't been down to Wichita much in their lives.
Wow.
And so we used some of our school vans, and for the first couple of days we actually drove them down. Then ourselves, we got someone to drive them down so they know the route that they need to take, they know what buildings they need to go to, that kind of thing. They just have never really driven down there. And so it really helps them get started and feel a little more comfortable, and now they're doing it every day now themselves. And so it's a really neat opportunity. That's where we're at. We're close enough to those opportunities in Wichita, those technical college opportunities, that those kids can go to school here for part of the day, go to school there for part of the day, and actually when they're done with graduating high school, they actually have a certificate and associates that they can actually go right to work in the field, which is really nice. And a lot of schools don't have those opportunities. It's just too far.
honestly, not in this session, it's gonna turn the whole thing off, because that's what it's done twice to me since I've done this one. So we're just gonna leave it for now, so. Is there anything? School-based health, we have, I know last time we talked about school-based health clinic. We have Carrie Harris, Amber Good here from KU Med, the school-based health clinic. They're here to, I know you've had some questions about that. So they're here tonight just to answer any questions that you might have about the clinic itself, kind of what it entails, kind of finance is a part of that, billing, things like that. So they're here to answer. If you guys want to come up here, you can sit there, whatever works for you.
Wherever you want. You're the boss.
It doesn't matter. You want to come sit? Podium. You stand on the podium.
I'm sure. Something that I
So yeah, I know we had questions about this, we talked about it some, but I didn't have all the answers, so I had them come tonight, that way they can answer any questions.
You did so.
Did a whole lot of this. So give us a overview.
I'm like, sure.
Why you did this, you said.
Yeah.
Selling it, I mean,
No, thank you guys for having us. So I'm Carrie Harris with pediatrician on faculty at KU in Wichita, the program director for our school-based health program. Amber Good is our nurse practitioner at both of our two locations right now, Valley Center and Hazel, primarily in Valley Center. So school-based health is something I'm very passionate about. I live in Valley Center and I work in Wichita, obviously. So when my kids are sick, I leave work. I drive 30 minutes to Valley Center to pick them up. I drive 30 minutes back to work, or not to work, but to their clinic. See the doctor, however long that takes, and we're always on time, so it's always great. And then I drive 30 minutes, drop them off, and 30 minutes back home. So, I mean, the kids that live outside of the metro area, like you mentioned, are somewhat limited in their access. Valley Center is similar to Sedgwick. We have one clinic. We work with our clinic that is there. It's hard to get in. It's hard to get into the doctors right now for acute care, so you're looking at driving into an immediate care in Wichita. So school-based health has tons of benefits, improved graduation rates, improved retention rates, decreased risk behaviors, decreased substance use, decreased mental illness, absenteeism. Decreased absenteeism, yeah, better reading skills. It's just like on and on and on. So as I started being interested in school-based health as a pediatrician, I was like, why are we not doing this more? Schools that have like on-site clinics, the kids feel more connected to schools, and more school connectedness, which I'm sure you guys know decreases again risk of behaviors and is a protective factor. So it's something I'm pretty passionate about, and I think just like you mentioned, driving the kids into WSU Tech, it's just I just feel like we can provide something for a kid and they don't have to leave school, and we can wrap around them, especially those that maybe are disadvantaged and don't have the support. It just is a no-brainer. So that's why we wanted to develop school-based health. It didn't take a lot of effort to convince anybody in the state. It actually started at a state level with the Kansas Maternal Child Health Council, just trying to meet the needs of adolescents, improve adolescent vaccinations, improve kids that are getting their wellnesses, improve or decrease rates of bullying. And we were like, this seems like school-based health needs to be a bigger than Kansas. And then look at that. So we have a site in Valley Center. It's a small district. We are feeling it's a small district. So the thoughts was, maybe we can pull in some of the other districts that also have limited access. Just open it up. And Valley Center was like, yeah, let's do it. So that's kind of what we are proposing. It's just if this is something that you would like your kids to be able to utilize, to try it out for a few months and see where it goes. If it's something that takes off and you guys feel like it would be beneficial to have them here a couple half days a week, we can certainly talk about that. But at this point, we're just wondering if we can have two students. Right now, it is actually a couple different ways. So ESSER funds through the Valley Center District have funded it, and then we've got some philanthropic support to fund it. Again, like I said, it doesn't take a lot of effort to convince people when you really talk about the benefits of it. And then we ask for funding support for the first 18 to 24 months of the clinic, because that's usually how long it takes to get the clinic up and functioning and sustainable on building. And then we build insurance on top of that. And we're really we've been a little bit rocky, I guess, in Valley Center, just because we opened right in the 2021 academic year in February, which is when Valley Center was hybrid, so kids weren't even in school, and faculty's offices were like, what, you're sick, we don't see you. So that was just a very weird time to open, so people were not aware that it was there, so it kind of got off to a rocky start. And then, again, 2021 fall semester blew up with COVID again, and we have support from the school nurse. So Amber's there, and then Robin Frieder is the district nurse, and that's the staff that we have to like try to do kind of bare bones as we can. And so Robin was very busy with COVID, as all school nurses were years ago, and so we really couldn't keep up the clinic. So really, the second semester, 2022, which is the year we're right now, is really when we kind of started to take off, and then it's just been very busy this year. So yeah, so funding it's going in the right direction. We paused over the summer, so it's kind of hard to look at that. But I think we're going to get there from a sustainability standpoint. But it's funded right now by the land for me.
I just reservations.
No, that's fine.
So what is the coordination with the school board nurse, and when does a typical sick child, what happens on that day to get to your facility?
Yep, so we, let the school nursing staff know about our clinic, so I have good relationships, and then Robin is the district nurse, so she's got that district connection.
we've done immunizations, just not the VFC, so, I mean, we could.
I mean, I would think that that would really help our school nurse be able to follow up on those, because a lot of parents, either they won't take the time to, or can't take the time off to go do it, or whatever. I see that as a huge benefit at the elementary school.
It's elementary, middle, high school, because there's exclusion dates, right, for all of those. So you're looking at like 12, or what, 5 years, 12 years, and 16 years, about 5 days of exclusion. So we get it across the board. But yeah, I think having the ability, and certainly as those exclusion letters go out, and being able to say like, hey, your kids are not up to date, like, but here's a resource, I just think that's nice. I think sometimes Sedgwick County will come out, well, you guys are perfect. I read that sign right away, I didn't realize that. But I know the county health department can come out and do like mobile points, but those are, you gotta be there that day, and that doesn't work. So the fact that she's there every day.
And we've seen a lot of immunizations.
Well, I think probably the greatest advantage to this whole thing was that thanks to the pandemic, healthcare found out this, Amazon, everyone's scared, they're going to do about this. That's being a parent in terms of cost for students. Kids just don't need help. Kids don't need help with adversary healthcare. It's just, I think, a great way to put that to rest and say, no, we're going to help. It's not a big deal and go outside or what we do. That's what.
Yeah,
Being outside, I think helps a lot.
Yeah, I haven't really thought about that, but I think that's a very important.
Yeah. So, the percentage of well business being advertised.
So right now, we are only doing, that's a good question. Right now, we really are only advertising like acute care. We're not doing well visits because our contract goes through December, and then they're going to revisit it in November to see if they want to extend it. So we haven't done a lot of welfare, except she's still getting a lot of calls of like, I can't get anywhere else, my kid needs a kindergarten physical. So we're just being really upfront. I'll take those kids into our main clinic if I need to help provide care. If we do close down, I don't think that we probably will, but you know. So we're just being real transparent. If we do
Bring them in for those services and just making the transition elsewhere, depending on the status of our clinic after December.
Those are really kids that are not established. Because if they can get established. And like I said, we have a good relationship with New Med and Valley Center, and they will take some of our Medicaid kids if they haven't been able to establish the position. Because it's really the kids on Medicaid, so really have a hard time establishing primary care. Because they're close to all of us.
So really what I was thinking with this, having them here, it's at no cost to us.
Yes.
Right.
Sounds like a no-brainer.
Through the end of December, and really, I think, we can promote this, and we'll get with Catherine, talk to her about it. I think it could be a huge asset for us. It's
So here we're saying we're driving Valley High versus on those days of operation versus back in I think it is right.
yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, because it'd be tough for us to say, hey, once you come out here on the day after
Right.
population of 500 students.
I think it would be hard. I think that's what we're finding in Valley compared to Hayesville. I mean, those Hayesville is double size Valley Center. The numbers are very different.
So just one more question. If you get your renewal in November and we decide we want to keep participating, are
think it would be, that's what we'll do. From here on, just put a plan together, make sure we're all on the same page as far as how this looks.
Do you guys each like a flyer?
Yes.
And I think that's what we'd probably be asking is like, you say this is available too to your students and put, or your night on here, and then can you pass it out to your students? If it gets too busy with such students, maybe having the school board nurse have some time or something to help kind of coordinate. And those are some of the things too. We never really gone to schools and asked for money except there was this ESSER money that, was specifically earmarked for some healthcare and mental health care. And so it seemed like a good partnership when we were talking to districts and districts calling us, like, we really want to do something. And we didn't talk about mental health, but Amber's part of our Kids Map network, which is a HRSA-funded program that helps to train primary care physicians and clinicians to better screen, diagnose, and treat mental illness in kids. And we partner with the 3 child adolescent psychiatrists very closely. I'm on that hub team and work really closely. So I wouldn't probably advertise that Amber's going to be doing a bunch of mental health stuff, just because through December, and we're going to be in that same boat. But if this does continue and we're able to expand, I think that's a real possibility. I'm sure it's in the same boat as everything else that needs us recommendations.
Went down to a school one day, traveled down to the school to go see the staff member, so, we do what we need to do. So,
Those care providers, not much care with those. You just have this huge volume here, so they're five. So I think it's a great idea. I don't know, can't think of one reason to say no. I think that the challenge will be that it's going to work, right? It's going to be positive. And then it's going to be up and down, we'll figure that out. And that's probably a good problem to have. I don't see it in the name.
That was kind of my personal reason why would you email me, and I don't care. So, our kids this week. So, was expression really good with it. No, I think that was.
That's happening.
We lost him to one of my kids. It was a big career.
No, I think that was. That was part of it, though, is that I knew about the program, it should sound like it's kind of a brainer. It's going to cost us until the end of December, and it's going to be great for, I don't know why we do that. And then from there.
Yeah, I mean, as far as funding goes, I look at grants every day. I'm always happy to collaborate with grant writers. Like that, another company, existing money inside, I mean, you'll get emails from me like, hey, this looks really good, great.
Great.
It's great together.
think they're,
Or a conversation like this.
yeah, when I talk to them, I mean, really, ideally, I think it makes sense for them not to have that facility to use this, realistically. And then hopefully with these funds, they can start to use that money to help with the equipment that's here. So that way it would be used together. And instead of having it separate when we're done with that, then that money can be used for that. That's my, because I see it being a community workout area for, obviously our kids are going to use it during the day. I think it really more enforceable. I think those are some opportunities we have that people can use. So that's been my conversations with them. That's kind of the direction.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why I was curious about it.
Yeah, nothing like that. It was more field type of to take care of things like that. From what I remember, to be honest with you. So, and that's my fault. I should have.
Could be protected.
Oh, yeah, sure. Why would you line item that as operating expense? Or,
Sure.
oh, future.
Yeah.
Yeah, so. Yeah, I feel like,
You too.
Does we have to approve this tonight? Is this where we're at?
I mean, it needs to be approved, yeah, before, since it's a part of our budget.
It's already in. Yeah.
Yeah.
but can we still
Yeah.
take some of our questions back? Or-
Absolutely, yeah, we can still ask, yeah, what that money's gonna be.
Yeah.
I was thinking about it, Greg. I was on Greg. I think this is supposed to, I think you're supposed to have this one.
It's usually an earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was usually, I didn't really
Yeah,
get it
that's
until
It's a challenge.
right before the August meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's part of it. I met with Josh Jimmy multiple times. Met with Vinny. I think it's just, but there's been some, now there's gonna be more transition. And so I'm hoping I've met with them and then meeting with Brian Daly in the city, just how can we coordinate everything together? So ensuring that, when they have a rec commission meeting, I want to know that so that I can go, hopefully, to be part of those meetings to that. I think also, making sure that we talk about transparency is a big thing. Making sure when I go to the city website, that we can find their minutes and things like that. Right now, those aren't on. So making sure that we have those things on there so that we can go back and ask those questions, and they'd be there because they would be able to readily find them. So hopefully that's definitely the direction I see us going. So and really, they're doing it probably the same way that it was maybe done previously, and so they're just continuing the thing that no one's ever said, hey, we need to do this. This would be a better way to do it, or then let's do it this way. So,
Well, I just feel it's hard to approve something when there's, a significant funding increase and without specifics.
yeah. And I apologize. I did not write it down. We had a conversation. I didn't. Should have. No, yeah. Right. So,
We approve this.
Wanda, say your last name.
The secret.
So,
Breck Heisen.
Rick Eisen, okay, good, that was close to what I was gonna say. That one.
There's our Breck Heisen. Texas. Do you have a letter?
I do, right here.
Thank you.
Sign.
Yay. Okay. Let's get this done. Did you share a draft?
I'm not yet.
Good. Because there was a link missing. Okay. My cache didn't reconcile on the draft I sent you. So now I don't have to point out the differences between the draft they may have seen and what they see tonight. So tonight tucked in was a two-page letter, and that's our government's letter, and that basically is just a recap of what we said we would do for you and what we did do for you. The main things to point out in that letter are that we did not have any disagreements with management. We didn't have any difficulties in conducting her audit. And as far as we know, you did not contact like another CPA firm for a second opinion, something that we had visited with you. So that in a nutshell is that letter. Then the auditors, independent auditor's report is on page 1 of the bound copy. And those of you who've been on the board for a while, this looks a little bit different. The guidelines, we have changed it, and the opinion is at the front of the letter instead of very towards the end. So, and because we've used the regulatory basis of accounting in the state of Kansas, called the Kansas Municipal Audit and Accounting Guide, KDAG, there's an adverse opinion on GAAP basis. However, the third paragraph talks about the unmodified opinion on the regulatory basis of accounting. And that's where it says, in our opinion, the accompanying financial statement referred to above presents fairly in all material respects the aggregate cash and unencumbered cash balance of the district as of June 30, 2022, meaning that you have a good, clean audit again for the fiscal year that just ended. Then it goes on to talk about and explain the basis for adverse and unmodified opinions. And then it's followed with responsibilities of management for your financial statement. And then it highlights auditor's responsibilities for the audit of the financial statement, followed by supplementary information which explains the individual fund schedules that follow the no disclosures. And then page 3 tells you that there's also comparison to the prior year information. So page 4 is your basic financial statement. And this is one line item per fund as a summary. The main thing here is that the ending cash balance, the very last column, the numbers are positive. You do have some negative numbers, and that's in your federal funding, where those are on reimbursements. So the main thing there is just that you watch those and make sure that that money is recaptured now. That it's not a cash violation when it's a reimbursable rate. Your cash increased as expected with the issuance of the bonds in December. So that's why if you look at the first column on the beginning, unencumbered cash balance versus the third column on the left, from the right, the ending unencumbered cash balance, or also the amount that's held in the bank. So down below it also shows how the money's held. But that's primarily because your projects have just started and you haven't spent, as of June 30, you hadn't spent a lot of the money that that bond is going to cost to do all the improvements you've got planned. So then on page 5 starts the note disclosures. And again, these are notes that are inspired by KDAG. And that's where we get our information. We just explain what kind of an entity you are, the kind of funds that you have available, your budget process, and then You have to disclose, the state of Kansas says that the money they send you in June has to be reported in your books you get it in July, and you have to report it as of June 30th. So that's what number 2 is, how much of that is received later. It talks about where you can hold your funds, because you have taxpayer knowledge, you cannot invest in a stock. And then stewardship and compliance and accountability, and there we're just talking again about those federal funds, and we're addressing the fact that they're negative, but we're telling you why it's not considered a cash violation. And then a new note, we've got a couple of new notes this year. We've summarized the capital project, and we use the beginning bond balance as your authorized amount that you can spend on your project, and then the amount that had been spent as of June 30th. And then your long-term debt note is new. You guys haven't had one of those for a while, so it shows what the balance is at the end of the year, and then it shows the amount that's due each of the next 5 years, and then in 5-year increments until it matures in 2052. The next page, interfund transfers, just a recap of where the money went from the general fund and the supplemental general fund to cover expenditures in those other funds. Talks about then long-term obligations related to employee benefits, goes over your capers, explains the defined benefit pension plan associated with capers. We talk about related party transactions. Part of that is your relationship with the rec commission on page 11. Your insurance coverages. Still have the coronavirus pandemic noted there. Expect that requirement will go away in the next year. It's moved pretty much from pandemic to endemic. So then on page 13 is your summary of expenditures, your actual, your budget. And this, again, the last column is what's important here. It's either a 0 or a negative. Negative numbers meaning that you had budget authority left over. You did not exceed any budget authority that you had. So those are all good numbers there. Then on page 14, your funds, a little more information to let you know where the money came from, and then in general terms of groupings of where it was spent, how it was spent. And as going through here, you have to spend all of your general and supplemental general budget when that was done. And then going through your fund balances did not change from what you would have seen at the end of the year. Your capital outlay fund budget increased. And you didn't have the expenditures out of capital outlay because you're doing the major project. So that would explain the difference there. Don't recall if there were any other funds that changed dramatically. We did, I don't believe we have done this before for federal and state grant government programs. We broke it down to show a little more information. In the past, we've had just kind of one column per thing and then the total carried over the prior year. But this gives you information for both years. So it takes up a few more pages than you've seen in the past. And then followed by, you have more activity in your bond on page 31 than you've had in the past. Your bond proceeds are in your capital project fund on page 32. And one thing I kind of went past on the long-term debt note, I also put a note in there to reflect that you got a premium. So your bonds were only 13.8, but you received more than that. And so if somebody would say, well, you only issued 13.8, but why is this number on page 32 more? It's been added as a note in there to explain the net premium that was received. And then the student board and agency and activity funds follow. And then at the very back, just a one-page letter. Sometimes it's hard to tell you what you need to do better when you've had really good staff. So what we do is tell you as a board not to forget that this is your financial statement, you're ultimately responsible for it. And we just want to make sure that you trust but verify, ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask questions, and you expect your staff to be able to provide the answers for you. So we're just again saying, you're a small organization, you can't afford to hire a CPA that can provide these statements for you on a regular basis. You hire us, but again, you're responsible for the financial statement. But the staff did a great job again, as always, and we expect that to continue with the training. We hope to see good results in it. Right, Rebecca?
Yes.
Yeah, we go through this pretty quickly. There's, like I said, there's no earth-shattering changes from what you've seen in prior reports, so.
I'll make that motion. Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the 2021-2022 SD 439 audit report. All those in favor? Those have signed. Motion carries.
All right, we will file this with the State Department.
Thank you. Thank you.
Next thing, gas line recommendations. So, we have some gentlemen over there, they're on standby. I'm hoping I can kind of talk about I won't give you all the details. Obviously with new construction, you're gonna run into some issues that are some things when you're dealing with data structures and things like that. You might find some things that need some work. So unfortunately with some gas line stuff, we've had some recommendations to change some things. And so done some looking into are these changes that have to happen? Do they not have to happen? Can we do what we originally planned? And so right now, we have a few options. A couple of the options, one of the options is to do what we have planned. Got a plan, it's in the budget to do what we had already, and we're good to go. One of the ones, option one, I'll have you kind of give the details of that, but basically extend the replacement of the 4-inch gas service line from the meter to the current tie-in location. So explain a little bit, maybe in some detail, maybe what that means.
Do you have the PDF that showed the plan? Can I come up there and point to it?
Yeah, absolutely, please do.
Yes, introduce yourself, tell us how
Okay. My name is Dustin Ewing, I'm a mechanical engineer with Professional Engineering Consultants. And so, can you zoom in? This area right here. So, I don't know if you guys have been familiar with this. As you're walking past this way, there's an existing meter out here. It smells of oil.
All the time.
Okay, all right. It must be working. Okay.
It must be
So there's the existing meters here, existing line comes into the building over here. Here's where our new building is going in. So this is why we're doing anything with that right now, because it's in the way of new construction. So as part of the plans right now, we are going to tie into that line right here and route it into the building and up on the roof. So that's what's included in the plan right now. But option one is to replace this line from here back to the gas meter. This line we think is original to the construction for this building, which is 1968, 70, something like that. Well, background, One Gas, or Kansas Gas, they will take care of all the lines from their distribution all the way up to the gas meter. Anything from here this way is the school's responsibility. So if there's any gas leaks on anything in here, you guys have to pay for it. So they said, hey, we're doing all of this work now, why don't you move the meter from here up to the building? That way, we will take care of everything this way, you guys are only responsible for everything in the building.
So there are some costs associated with making those changes.
Yep, and that's where the option 4 would be, moving the actual meter.
So option 4 is moving the meter up closer to the building.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's an option 4. Sorry. Oh, wait.
Sorry. Yeah, I don't have the hand.
Okay, so option 4, move the meter from over here, right up to the north side of the building. Kansas Gas brings in a new line, or ties in somewhere out here, but we don't care as much because that's their responsibility, if there's any problems with that one. It comes right up here, and then everything on your side is now all located on the buildings, and not anywhere out here. Because currently, where the gas meter is here, you've got this line that goes this way, and you also have another line that goes this way, ties in here, and it comes over further, and ties and feeds all of this. What further complicates it is that this is a higher pressure gas here than it is here. And Kansas Gas doesn't want to provide this 10 psi pressure anymore, because that's not the typical thing to do for any building, or for this type of building. If we were doing industrial stuff, yes, you could need higher pressure, but not for this. So if you lower the pressure, when they want to put the meter here, some of the piping is undersized now. So there's just a small stretch of piping that would need to be replaced in order to feed all of this now. And then a few regulators would also have to be replaced as well. So that's incorporated with option 4 cost. We're going to ignore option 2 and 3 because these are our 2 best options, or 3 best options.
And lowering the PSI, does that do anything to, like, heat or, I mean, is that going to change the environment inside?
No. When they lower the pressure, as long as the pipe size is adequate, we'd have to change the regulator. The regulators are what change high pressure down to low pressure. All of the equipment here uses low pressure gas. The reason that they did 10 psi gas a while ago was, 1, it must have been available, and 2, you can get a smaller pipe size and save money by installing it. You increase the pressure, pipe size is smaller, but now we're in a situation where they don't want to provide 10 and they can avoid it.
What's the regulator set at right now?
So I think that so we can go back to that last plan. As far as over on this side, there are a number of different regulators on the roof. Those would need to be replaced with this option. There's also a regulator currently up here that feeds all of this, and each one of these pieces of equipment has a regulator as well. I don't want to get into, well, we could be here all night. How to size all the gas piping. Our goal is to try to keep this exactly as is, from this point down this way, so we don't have to do any modifications to the regulators on gas piping this way. If we have to go with 5 psi over here, the minimum amount that we would need to do is to change out regulators in these circled locations and then change where it's routed here.
So it's 5 coming into the building and the regulators are set at different.
So most of the piping is up on the roof once it gets to here, and that's not the case everywhere. It's currently we are at 10 psi over here and 36 inches, which is like a 1 1/4 pound over this way. They were done at different times, and I think it was a cost-saving measure. So I think that if we do a new regulator here, we can keep exactly the same pressure for all of this over here. I think replacing these regulators over here will keep everything downstream of those exactly the same. Okay, so
Just all on the roof.
almost all of the stuff up here is on the roof. There's a few pieces of equipment like the water heater over here. There's some water heaters over here, and unit heaters for furnaces circling this area.
have 5 PSI here. I'm still gonna regulate right here down to that low pressure. That's what I'm saying.
So you're talking like, we're talking about replacing the pipe size system, like that, where it drops down and everything is going into.
It's only the loop right here.
Okay.
So this, we zoomed in. This is red here, and it is an existing line that is on the roof. This is basically the only undersized. But if we've got a regulator here, and we want to avoid routing new stuff below grade up this way, we can route it above the roof over here and tie in here, and then we're going to demo this portion this way. So all of the piping that comes back here now goes away, or gets capped below grade if you make it. So this is the cleanest option when it comes to future stuff that you are responsible for that's on
So you're getting rid of the underground line that the school's responsible for, and you're replacing some regulators with one line that's gonna be resized.
So this particular line comes over here to serve this area. This one comes to serve the majority of this. New stuff is all coming from the new meter that we got this year. Some other things that you're thinking about. Base bid was tying into the existing line that's old right over here. This is old from here to here. This from here, all the way this way is the same age. It's all old too, and it's all been exposed to the sun. So, yes, we're replacing this much that's below grade, and yeah, it would be nice to have that nicer stuff, but you've still got a lot of antiquated equipment and piping up there that wasn't part of this
Yeah, but all of that is above
It is accessible. Yes.
person level.
Yes.
To where gas goes.
Yes.
Yeah. So we don't have anything underneath the surface to where it could be exposure.
So when you said, move it up into school, where, I mean, just trying to visualize that, is that just like, that's what I was
I was
gonna say.
saying, it's like-
So it'll literally be against the school, I mean, just outside the side. Against the school, gas has to enter above grade. We don't want to go below grade inside the building. Per code, we're gonna be above grade so that if it ever leaks, you want it outside the building, not pressure it up underneath the building. Okay, so I think it's the double doors are here, and I thought that the meter was just going to go this side. Yes. The other option we looked at was putting the meter back here, but it seemed like that was a bad spot because you're going to have a lot of flow coming out there to this way. Just this seemed like a more secluded spot. What's that? So most regulators are vented to the outside, and so you smell that, and so now I'm closer. But there are no windows on that side of the building at all, and there's no outside air intakes in that area. The whole side. Okay. Latest thing not having the ability to do this. But there are.
So your recommendation is four?
Our recommendation, I guess, would be yes, we had the funds to do it. Yes, this would be, with the caveat that you've still got a lot of existing piping.
Sure.
That still could have issues. And so when they change the pressure, and they have to go pressurize the test, the concern is that when they pressurize the depressurization test, it's an elevated pressure. And they could be chasing leaks for a while to get that resolved. And I think the biggest issue that we've got right now is that we need to have gas for this winter. And so where it comes
base bid basically is just moving it from where it comes in now. This covers it right. Right now it comes into the building about right here, and this is where the new corridor ties in. And so our plan was to tie in here instead, and then bring it in and try to tie in. That's base bid. Option 1 is to replace all of that line up to the existing meter. Option 4 is moving the meter over here and redistributing, replacing this.
So the question that I had asked was, or Beth had asked, was about this part, this fall under scope.
So that, in a perfect world, option 4 all in. The biggest dilemma we have here is it's September 12th. And if we continue to spin like this, we could potentially get to the end and there's something, we don't have to do either one of these things, if that makes sense. Neither one of these have to be done. Kansas Gas is not telling us that we're not breaking any laws, we're not doing anything detrimental to our kids that could potentially hurt our kids. By doing what was planned. They wouldn't have put that in the plan if it was something that was not okay to do.
Part of the new building is the overtop line is an option. On which option?
If we don't get enough, part of the
That's why we're doing the base bid. It was to relocate it so it's outside of the building. Because right now, that's what's currently in scope. It's moving it just outside of the
You're just moving it north,
Yes,
or connecting it to the building part of it.
yes. Yep.
So kind of in a nutshell, what happened, we went to go coordinate with One Gas for the base bid tie-in. They said, wow, you've got elevated pressure that we didn't really connect that you had, which we don't really recommend. You're also tying into a very old gas line, and the regulator meter setup that's out there is outdated, and they'd like to update it as well. So when we went to go coordinate the tie-in, it basically opened up a big can of worms and exposed a lot of the existing conditions that Kansas Gas, One Gas wasn't aware of, and now they're, again, we had 4 or 5 different options that we kind of coordinated back and forth. Okay, if you had recommendations to make, what would they be? And then we priced those, and that's kind of what we brought tonight. But to Greg's point, base bid was covered in the budget, is doable, and is accepted by Kansas Gas. It's just kind of the bare minimum that we've got to do to keep construction.
And the dilemma, we're not like chasing leaks. So there is a bunch of old pipe. The reality is if we do the base and then we start sending gas to these lines, we potentially could have, which is gonna cost money as well.
That's something that I would see as a use of contingency.
Right, sure, absolutely. Yeah, I'm just saying, potentially. And I think this could be, we could do the base right now and potentially come back and do this later, correct?
You could, the only thing you would be out is the $3,400 cost that we've got to connect right now.
Right, sure. So it could be something that could be done at a later time. It doesn't.
Access isn't an issue.
So option,
Future, if we said we're gonna do it later.
I mean, option 4 from an access standpoint is fairly open.
Right.
Option 1, yes, starts getting really know that, you know, if we do it later, you're probably not gonna wanna have gas shut down in the middle of winters. That's probably delayed until spring.
Yeah. So that's because we simply don't know what we're doing. And if they were coming in and saying we had to do it, that would, from my perspective, that would be different. You know, and everything that I've gotten from them, questions I've asked, no one has said you have to do this, it's not an option. You're doing this unsafe. Kids aren't safe, people aren't safe in the building. It's been this way since the building was built in 98, well, the new edition. Yeah, the new edition. So it's been that way the whole time. And it wasn't ever an issue until now. And things have been, had a lead here or there, maybe, but that's.
It appears the right time to fix it, against the one drops. You know what I mean?
I agree.
It's the right time to do this, but I'm not advocating for it. It
I agree.
makes sense, because we're having this discussion a year from now, how that line lapses, whatever. I know there's a lot of ways here, but it just, I don't know, it seems like we're going to be doing that with construction in there. Eliminate that neighborhood at some point. So it seems like a good thing.
Well, the recent issues we had don't have anything to do with how the lines were, the leak that we just had.
Was that associated with piping up here? So I think that, and I don't know this for sure, but I thought this was part of the 1997 edition. I thought that they had some, what they thought might be installation issues at the time. There were a number of leaks that occurred because of that. So all of that has been replaced, and I don't think that there's any, I thought this had been replaced from these two lines that come over. That's newer here.
Was it, I think from what it was threaded pipe, but it should have been not threaded pipe, is that correct? Was that, I honestly, I think that was, from what I understand, is it shouldn't use that type of pipe with the gas that they were pumping in because of that. It should have been welded one piece since it was threaded.
Yeah, I didn't hear all the details, but I did hear it was more related to installation than it was the material, like a fault in the material.
Yeah. I agree. Now's the time to do it. My biggest fear is with capital outlay money and things like that, we're already spending a big chunk of money. And can we find the money at the end? Maybe so, but then we also have, I guess you have to weigh the priorities. These things might come up, the first alternate probably is that the indoor running surface that we know is on hold, but that's, from my perspective, that's probably the number one thing. If there's some savings, is to do something like that. But the more things like this that come up, the less likely that those things might happen. And
Andy might come up to you, no, you gotta fix this.
Yes.
I mean, I have a choice.
Because-
That's a what if, but if
Yeah.
we spend 40 years, and we find out, all these, break down, they start pressurizing the dang line and all the valve break COVID. It's like, oh, we gotta have a valve, so that's another 40. Well, then that's not that to spend 40 that we really truly have to spend.
One of the fears, like, when you're replacing any gas lines, you kind of pressure gas, and you do that, we change a little bit here, we could be chasing leaks all the way across the building that we're unseen. And then, how foolish are we going to at that point, that, okay, now we're just spending a whole bunch of money here, chasing leaks and fixing everything else. So, I mean, I get, it makes me nervous to do this, but what's the necessity for to have all this new stuff, all gas line, and
They're still going to do the pressure test once they change the line.
Sure.
So the pressure test, the pressure test is gonna happen.
Absolutely.
It's gonna happen.
So, but we don't have to spend 38.5.
Right. Yeah.
And then when we find out all the stuff's broken, because we have 38.5 to spend. Or we double, or triple.
that's part of the reason why really, I don't, I just don't want to see us get into, in the spring, where there are things we have to do, I don't know where we're, I I'm not saying that's gonna happen, but that's where, in worst case scenario, that's where I go, we've already exhausted a lot of our capital outlay, can we spend more of that? Sure. But we're getting close to there. There's policies we have to keep a certain amount of money in there as well, so, go with whatever you feel is best. So, I mean, obviously,
We're looking at it. This. Some of the stuff that we, is something
That's my opinion. I mean, I'm not arguing or anything, I just, to me, this is the time to fix it. And we gotta wait on the walking track surface a year or 2 years. And so, I mean, I'm just using that example on that.
absolutely, no, absolutely, I agree, yeah.
To not install walkers for $15,000.
And that's all, that's low on the list, that's low.
Those are things we can discuss that thing, and figure out how we go with that.
That's right.
What's that perspective? You're what we hired you. We hired you to tell us, give us a big dollar.
I'll agree that at this point, because of the space restrictions and everything else going on right around there, I mean, option one makes good sense to at least get that main updated and new to a poly line, so that at least what's underground, you don't have to worry about, because that's probably the most expensive to do down the road. You know, if you've got some leaks up on the roof, those are probably more manageable in an isolated, you know, instance. Hopefully they're coming after regulators and valves to where you can kind of isolate them. You know, if you've got a leak at that line from the meter to the building, and Kansas Gas is aware of it, Kansas Gas is going to shut down that gas distribution. And then you have, which I think is what happened on the other line. So, yeah, it happened to me in the summer when we were needing it. Not to throw the fear factor out there, but, you know, next time it could be February. So, option 4, really, I mean, are there benefits? Yeah, to kind of go with like one gas recommendation and get lower PSI and visually kind of clean up the possible eyesore of the meter where it is and kind of get it closer to the building. To me, that's kind of the benefit of doing that. That's kind of more of a decision of whether you want that out there. It's an aesthetic question halfway. I mean, the other half, the Dusty's point is actually getting elevated pressure decreased to Kansas Gas's recommendations.
What's along that north wall, is there anything they're driving toward to identify a place to put it, or we're pretty flexible along that north wall, where I mean, basically go east of the double doors and going to the bottom, and that's where the football hangs out. They're kind of practices.
Here,
No, it's basically right here. Double doors are pretty much right here. So could we move the gas line?
entrance.
Entrance, yeah,
Well, there's an
you're.
entrance. But over here,
Right.
I'm saying hit it right in between.
Well, and it could look different, having all the new addition right there too, that could all potentially change too, just how that all works with and stuff. I can see that change, just because of the new gym and all that, so, I don't know.
So is there, I didn't realize there was something going on.
You know, you're just saying that they might utilize the gym space.
The gyms, right, that's what I was saying, yeah, using that.
Versus the railroad.
So
Right, that's right.
is that what things are moving toward?
I would imagine it would be much more.
I couldn't speak for, I don't know for sure, but I would think with a new weight room space in there, probably, I don't know for sure. I don't know, there's not much.
I mean, they would basically get dressed, go over there, that's what they would have.
already planned.
Yes.
This isn't necessarily adding money from that. It may potentially change what we do with contingency funds if we can. Correct, is that a fair statement?
Well,
Part of it's so good, that's such a great job, they're gonna have this big pile.
part of the 1.3 had the 600K for faculty, that's why we had it.
Right.
And there's a lot of things in there, like we've already know, we can't start, you know, we're gonna have to do, if we're gonna do it, we gotta do it. So as, I think Paulette's question is, okay, we said we got 1.3, now we're having to bill. You know, we're having to,
And this is, right, which is not a big chunk of money if you look at the grand scheme of things.
but
My biggest fear is if it continues.
We're only September.
Which is, I mean, it's building your house, so I'm sure it's gonna be a
it's all relative,
I
right?
think we all knew that we were gonna cover some people were probably not, covering some of these things. So it's not, I was not totally shocked that we're going to be discussing this. But I don't like the price tag, but I also think it's just being, I feel like it's trying to at least get that year moved so that we can do other parts of this year. It's just building, take ourselves a line.
To me, the option one, the next option one, basically, that is 14.5 is taking that whole thing out of the equation in the future, right? I mean, you said that Kansas Gas is gonna, basically, it alleviates problems into our building, anything outside of our building, did I understand correctly?
Yes.
Yeah, but if we spend the 38.5 instead of 25, it alleviates, basically alleviates issues in the building.
It shifts slightly.
Shifts slightly.
Yes.
Right, which alleviates problems from checkbook for the building, right? So it's basically their issue outside of the building. Everything else is our responsibility. So, I mean, I guess in my opinion too, if we're gonna do, we either don't do anything, or we do option 4.
I would agree with that. If we're gonna do something, we do it.
Right.
But if this might just cut my thoughts.
Maybe I misunderstand it, maybe.
No, I agree. 38.5 is what we want to do. Everything to get done with that, is what we need to do. If we're gonna do it, let's do that. I guess, my opinion, is because this is, you know, what risk we want to take on. Right? If we do the 38, the next week, we take up another hole, or put a kidney over there, so, you know what I mean? There's always, we're gonna find that stuff, eventually we're gonna get to something that is not like this, like we have a decision to make. It's gonna be, oh, you gotta do this, and that number may be 100,000. Well, we just spent 40K here, and you're like, oh, crap. That's what I'm struggling with, is we may uncover something that stops everything we have to do first. And that's what makes this difficult, because now's the right time to do it, but it's really early, we know we're gonna have these other things, and then are these other things gonna be mandatory versus optional?
Can we send the bill to the Sedgwick County?
Can you factor that in, Sedgwick County Clerk Force? That's my discussion, I'm not against any of it, that's my fear, it just becomes, what's our risk, you know, what kind of risk do we want?
Right, so these guys put it on you a little bit. So you guys have from a risk assessment. So basically, we're talking in major infrastructure for gas, right? Which is going to be anything major infrastructure for general fund. So at some point, we're going to get to where everything's done from a major infrastructure standpoint, and then we're dealing with the architecture side of it, and we're building, right? Other than maybe some leaking gas lines, right? So what's the risk of $100,000 thing hitting us in 6 months. It should fall away rapidly, right?
So what are,
Or am I just totally-
no, what I was gonna say, in situations like this, my experience, a good portion of costs show up when you are below grade, right? And you're dealing with those existing conditions. I mean, we've already uncovered a lot of them out there. Some of them we've absorbed, some of them we've brought forward as well. I think the only thing that, from a risk assessment standpoint, that you're going to get into is going to be in the existing building. It's not going to be associated with the new additions, if that makes sense.
I agree. It's okay with yourself.
In general, or?
Just about. We know.
It's like you belong.
So, I mean, is that a crazy thought to have, different, like you just talked about, is it, should we be concerned about, I mean, this is probably the time we're gonna find the major expense stuff, like you said. So is
Certainly,
that,
no, yes, you've got a lot of that stuff out of
John.
so,
I can't, I don't have a crystal ball.
I know, but you also got experience.
Are those carbon steel pipes? Is that what that is? Is that what the gas is coming in as?
On the roof, I think it's all black steel.
Black steel?
And it is a steel line coming in from low grade that we're talking about replacing. But I don't know, from 1997, what it was. I think the plan is to do the poly up to the building and then black steel, everything up above that. Yes. But right now, 38 includes the new steel in it. So it's currently planned to be installed below the canopy in that round area. And then once we're beyond that, we'll go up the roof in the 1997 edition.
Just a lot of this is awesome.
So if our auditor told us we had 1.7 capital outlay, and we're using 1.3, and then that takes us down to 700,000,
Yeah.
so just 38.5 would take us down to 350,000 in our capital outlay.
Wait, 700,000.
So we're going to get more than 1.7. That's what we have earned. So between now
Yeah.
and July.
July, yeah.
I don't know what that, what that number
I
is.
think it's 2.1. But also, that money, we replaced HVAC for 12 grand already this year. While one of the elementary schools.
Fire.
Fire. There's gonna be things, and so that's why the 1.3 was kind of the number we did, because those other things are gonna pop up
Yeah.
that aren't related to this.
One, three, we use 40,000,
Well, I think it,
60. 1.2, 40,000. I'm going with that.
How nervous does it make, Greg? I mean, aren't you comfortable with it? Good, bad, what's your?
well, I know, from my perspective, this all makes me nervous. Because I think going into this, well, to be honest with you, I'm not, one of the things I was very upfront with all of you is that the budget stuff is the one area of the school district I don't have any familiarity. I simply don't. I can do instruction. I can talk to teachers. I'm very comfortable with that. This stuff is something that I simply don't know. I've had people come and ask me questions about, wages and things like that. Honestly, I can't make some of those decisions right now because I simply don't know what this year entails and what all goes into, managing a budget of a school district. And so it makes me nervous. Does it mean that when we first had this conversation, yeah, I'm like, oh, it's off for 40. Yeah. But then as I go in my head and go, well, it is option 4. If we're not setting ourselves up at the end of the year for something that, then what do we do?
Yeah.
Well, sorry, we have to do this. Where does that money come from? It has to come from somewhere. So, I mean, does it?
It's such an item, isn't it?
What's that?
It's a deal with yourself, it's for sure an item. Just an item or something.
Here's the thing.
You're not by yourself. You're, I mean, this is.
No, and I do think, can we find the money to do this? I'm hopeful that we can. I think, like I said though, I don't know. Because I'm just afraid of what might come up. Is a lot of the stuff already, yeah, I hope so.
There are things that this school district does not do that a lot of other school districts do that we could do. And our community would kind of support us. I mean, we don't do fundraising at this community at all for this school. And I think our community would understand that if there was something that came up and that we needed funds, we could go to them and we would be okay.
Oh, it's reciprocated. Your question, really, getting a resolution.
Well, at this point. Yeah.
I think it's the time to do it. I mean, we've got everybody on site, it needs to be moved. Mainly because that underground line is so freaking old, well, you're gonna replace it, but having a line underneath the ground is just not a good situation for gas. I mean, and that we are responsible for, exactly.
That's my biggest, the future. As I said, emergencies also.
And you do it now, I mean, the reality is, as we rebuild, capital outlet in the next few years, it's something that's going to reappear to get done at some point. But you're right.
Yes, your
What's the cost
25-year
then?
plan has got to have.
It would have to have.
Some piping
Right.
replacement for gas lines,
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah, and then at that point, what is the cost? Yeah, it could be 2 times, 3 times. You don't know what you don't know. And this is
Well,
in front of
this
us
is
now.
where paid for PPC to do their work. You're gonna have up here paying to oversee this to be done, but those costs are already here. But if we wait 5 years and decide to use it in, what of that has to be paid at the exact time.
And kind of what I'd love to be able to say, I recovered out of contingency now, yes, I'd love to be able to say that. I think we're early enough in the project that I'm uncomfortable saying that at this point. I know PC, SBT, and us, we're working kind of behind the scenes on other things to go try to find additional monies to go save, to work towards the yellow list items, so that if there is contingency money left over, it can go back to those things. So, the more we eat up contingency now on non-kind of gap-related stuff, the less likely that there is down the road for it to be applied to this.
Well, if you think last year, we did the HVAC at the elementary school, we replaced the gas line from clear down the street, and we brought the meter in a whole different spot, and now we have the opportunity to do it here. Yeah, it's a little uneasy, but I think building the infrastructure, I know we still have a lot more tie-ins to existing that we still have to do. And then that's probably going to be probably more problematic on the road, but it just seems like this would be the opportunity right now to do this. Because of the next 5, 10, we were trying to build sustainability in what we're doing. So it makes sense.
Option 4 limits your liability from the building to the gas meter. And in a lot of the way, it's limiting, or maybe, limiting your liability on some of the old piping that's up on the roof, because with the pressure drop, we're going to be replacing some of that old piping with new. So you're kind of getting a little bit of that foregone maintenance cover. in the 38.5.
Sorry.
I mean, there's still a bunch of old piping left that right now we're not touching, that's still gonna have to be accounted for, you know, in the years to come, kind of from a maintenance standpoint. But option 4, you are, I guess, taking on some of that maintenance under the construction budget, if that makes sense.
So there's some percentage of that that we're gonna have to do down the road to get covered.
Right, yep.
So Mr. Chemical Engineer is no? Mechanic.
Architectural
Engineer.
talking.
I talk to chemical engineers all day, so.
You're on
Is
the-
there a mining or a insert that we could put into lines that would shore up the lines and we wouldn't have these?
Like an interior coating,
I've not experienced that before.
Okay.
not on this size.
I did
I mean, yes, those options are out there for a lot larger sizes of pipe.
And I'm not saying, one second, sorry. I'm not saying that there are going to be problems with your existing gas piping that's on the original. We just,
Yeah, we don't.
I haven't heard of any, hey, we've got a bunch of leaks. Yes.
So for this, so I can do my consumer math, if that's all I can do. Is a 38.5, is the true number of 42.5 and then it's 4K off, or is it 38.5 and we're actually paying 44.5?
I think you said approximately.
Yeah, so, One Gas, Kansas Gas, if the meter gets relocated, they are anticipating sending the district a bill for
So
about.
we have 34.5, so that
So
our cost.
if we were to come before you right now and say, hey, we need a change order, HUD needs a change order, it would be 34.5.
Okay.
With anticipation that One Gas is then gonna bill the district.
Total cost is like 38.5.
Yes.
We're gonna be reimbursed for it. Okay.
Okay.
So now that makes it even easier for me, because now that's a big swing, that's a $10,000 or $8,000 swing.
I mean,
Big money, big.
I don't know about the reimbursement.
42.5. It's a swing.
We'll get them.
I'll make a
You're
motion.
used to dealing with millions then. You think that's a swing?
But it's
Yes. Right. And that's kind of, we're arguing.
Yeah.
I think we just do the option 4, we just move on. At the end of the day, guys, we're talking about 38 grand, and a $13 million project. 14. And the number grows to 42.5, then probably you just add inflation, it's, and problems, and the equipment in the way, you know, we're closer to 60K, just what we're.
So does anybody disagree or feel like we're leaning towards?
You do disagree?
No, I agree.
You made a motion. I did not make a motion, but you disagree. I said I'm ready to. And she's.
No, I said the negativity.
Madam President, I'd like to make a motion. I make a motion to go with option 4 to relocate the gas main to the north wall of existing building, including the relocation by Kansas Gas site block patch, gas line removal, retaining exposed gas line, underside overhang. That's my motion. That's presented by our leaders.
Are we going to have a not to exceed number or is, are we, is that
That's
just?
written in black, so I assume that that's already
Okay.
not to exceed. So that's my motion is to accept option 4 and move forward. 38.5.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve option 4 for $3,500. Gas meter. All the other things listed below. All those in favor? Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. You're awesome.
Thanks so much.
That was hilarious. That was.
In general,
I knew.
You really wouldn't need to try to, that's really.
I know.
that's
That
a little after.
sounds good. Quick recess. We're taking 5 minutes real quick.
Fire break.
Yeah, I need a motion to take a recess.
Second.
Second.